Good evening, I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo story. If you thought that the aftermath of the Lakhimpur Kheri catastrophe would bring the opposition together, well, think again. There is now an open spat between the Trinamool Congress and the Congress, and at the heart of it is political strategist Prashant Kishor. Let's bring up our big political focus on the program today. Prashant Kishor is the BJP's Trojan horse, claims the Congress party. This statement has come from the Congress leader in the Lok Sabha, Adhir Ranjan Chowdhary, who, of course, is also a West Bengal based leader. Adhir Ranjan Chowdhary has lashed out at both Mamata Banerjee and Prashant Kishor, saying Kishor is responsible for making Mamata dream of becoming the Prime Minister. Now, Prashant Kishor was rumored to be considering joining the Congress party. But this open spat between the Trinamool Congress and the Congress, as well as Mr. Kishor's recent tweets about the Congress's fate riding on the back of Lakhimpur Kheri, seems to have put that rumor to rest. So, as Prashant Kishor inches closer to the Trinamool Congress and faces allegations of being a plant for the BJP, is Mamata Banerjee, with Mr. Kishor's help, trying to emerge as the new Congress. And what does this say about the state of play within the Congress party? Let's bring up our guests on the program today. And as we look at this topic, let's introduce them. We're joined by Sujata Paul of the Congress Party. She's a Congress supporter. Welcome to the program. From the Trinamool Congress from Bengal today, we're joined by Professor Om Prakash. Shivam Vij, writer and journalist, and analyst, joins us as well. And Sanjay Jha, lapsed Congress spokesperson, seen to be close to the G23, as it's called, the group of 23 rebels within the Congress party, is also with us. And I can now see Sanjay Kumar, political analyst with the CSDS, also joining us. So welcome, everybody. Very interesting combination of speakers. And let me take this chance to start with Sanjay Jha. I start with Mr. Jha because he still describes himself as a loyal congressman, though his party doesn't recognize him as that. And he seems to represent the rebels within the Congress. Now, this open quarrel between Mamata Banerjee and the Congress party, with PK at its heart, Sanjay, as in Sanjay Jha, how do you see it?
Well, Barkha, I think a lot of the members of the G23 were always a little wary or circumspect about the dramatic movements that were happening when Prashant Kishor was meeting the Congress leadership. There is a lot of talent within G23 and even non-G23 within the party who are capable of giving the Congress leadership a lot of strategic inputs using data, non-data, communication, tactics, etc., etc. So we were a little astonished as to how suddenly Prashant Kishor was angling for a very critical assignment within the Congress. Now, the fact of the matter, however, is this, Barkha, that the Congress has weakened over the last, more than, frankly, a decade. I believe it started with the Arvind Kejriwal Anna Hazare agitation, and the Congress has never really been the same almost for the last 10 years, actually. So my simple point here is that
I mean,
where the
I'm sorry to break your flow, but I'm hearing these bells go off on someone's phone, and I can't help thinking who the bells toll for at this point. So yes, whoever phone it is, please switch it off. But the bells seem to metaphorical. Sanjay Jha, continue your point.
Yeah. So Barkha, in short, in my opinion, politics is a very competitive space. In fact, it is an ongoing Grand Slam tournament. And whenever one party weakens, because in India there is so much of ideological. Now that is not a bell, that is a bark, and I'm extremely sorry about that one. But I need to tell you this: as far as the bell is concerned, I think Shivam looks more of a guilty party. But if I can scream through the din and the noise of Pablo Escobar, that's his name. The truth, Barkha, is this: that the Congress has weakened, and I think the TMC is very rightfully, in my opinion, seeing an opportunity to expand its footprint. This is a logical consequence of the grand old party ceding space, and a
Mhm.
Mamata Banerjee who has humbled the BJP, telling herself that, listen, at least I'm old Congress, so if the Congress doesn't get the vote, Can I become the alternative?
Okay,
I
but
think
but
we
I think
should
I
play
think I
that
think
game.
Escobar's barking behind you has confused you just a tad. So let me push you a little bit on what you've said. You've said that the Congress is being self-destructive by by picking a quarrel with Mamta Banerjee at this point, but at the same time, you think the group of 23 is electorally more relevant than, let's say, if Prashant Kishor had joined the Gandhis. Is that what you're saying? Because some would say that the group of 23 are people who can't really win elections. Sanjay.
Well, let me tell you something. Escobar actually has given me the right dope at the moment. It's a dangerous thing to say given what happened to Aryan Khan. But I want to mention this, Barkha, that if you look at the number of people in G20, there are four ex-chief ministers. I mean, Milind may have lost an election, but he won two Lok Sabha elections earlier. Manish has been part of it. Sashi's been part of it. You have had, Mr. Huda, who's, by the way, in my opinion, a heavyweight in Haryana, who can possibly win the next assembly election for the Congress party. So I think there is a lot of people within the Congress who try to spell, kind of try and spin this canard that the G23 is armchair people, that somebody like me sits in Mumbai, goes to a private club and hits topspin tennis. I think there's a whole lot of bullshit. In politics, you need all kinds of people to make success happen. You need that English speaking guy who can pontificate on where India should go. You also need that rustic guy who gets onto a bully pulpit and hammers the hell out of the opposition. So I do believe that G23 is formidable. Prashant Kishor was always a bit of a dicey proposition, but I will speak on behalf of Mr. Mishra. Mishra ji will not get angry with me. I believe his party has every right to poach disaffected or disillusioned or disenchanted people from the Congress, because I would do the same.
Okay, let me take this to Mishra ji of the Trinamool Congress. We had the former Chief Minister of Goa very openly say that Prashant Kishor had approached him on behalf of the Trinamool Congress. We've had Sushmita Dev also migrating from the Congress, trying to open forays in Tripura. And we've had Trinamool leaders, maybe not yourself, who's much more measured, but certainly other leaders on this program talking about Mamta Banerjee now emerging as the pivot of the opposition. Now you have this assault, verbal assault from Adhir Ranjan Chowdhary, who's no longer just a West Bengal leader. He's the Congress leader in the Lok Sabha, so he holds that position. And he not just calls Mr. Kishor the BJP's Trojan horse. He basically says that Mamta is dreaming of becoming prime minister, and Prashant Kishor is urging her to dream that dream. How do you see those comments from Mr. Adhir Ranjan Chowdhary, Professor Om Prakash?
Had this been someone other than Adhir Ranjan Chowdhary, then we would have taken it seriously. I'm very sorry to say that he's not taken seriously at all here in Bengal. It's the same thing he has been talking about one way or the other past so many years, and he continues to do so even after the election. I mean, the West Bengal election. Before the by-election, Bhawanipur by-election, he was saying the same thing that Trinamool and the BJP, they are together. Now again he has started doing so. And I would rather dismiss his comments on Prashant Kishore, because frankly speaking, that does not directly involve us. In fact, he should be taking it up with Sri Rahul Gandhi or Srimati Sonia Gandhi ji, because Prashant Kishore ji is a professional consultation organization. There is not a political party. They were involved here in Bengal. They were involved very much in Tamil Nadu. I'm not talking of their earlier involvement, say in Punjab, or for that matter in Delhi, or for that matter in 2017 in Uttar Pradesh. It is very well known that Prashant Kishore ji is disassociated with BJP. He has been helping non-BJP political parties and formations. He has been working with them in a professional capacity. His IPAC has been doing that. And to talk about him, and specifically with regard in the backdrop of, I have also heard and read in the newspaper where PK is being quoted by the Congress leadership. So basically, Adhir Ranjan Chowdhary should take it up with his party leadership. So far
Okay.
as
So far as Mamta's prime ministerial ambitions are concerned, if you just want to complete that, and then I'll go to Shivam.
Oh, well, Mamata Banerjee has been very clear that she does not wish to be the prime minister or to be the leader. What she has been saying, emphasizing that we should all work together. And of course, he has actually proposed a coordination committee, which is not coming about. Trinamool Congress has lot of energy. We actually would like to strengthen every political group opposed to the BJP. But then we have to move fast and forward. We just cannot keep on, relying on Congress to lead the way. There are other political formations, and everybody should come together. This is what Mamta ji has been asking for, demanding, and this is what we propose to do. Now, the
Okay,
context
okay,
of
hang
who
on.
is going to be the prime minister
Hang
is
on, hang on,
different
hang
issue.
on, hang on. Prime Minister to dur ki baat hai. First, we need a prime ministerial candidate. We are not discussing who's going to be
No, we
prime
don't
minister.
need a prime ministerial candidate. I'm sorry.
Okay, prime ministerial face.
No, there is no, not, this is the BJP is strong, they think, in relationship to
Okay,
Narendra Modi. That is why. It's the 543 parliamentary constituencies.
okay. This is a different debate that whether we have a presidential parliamentary democracy or not. The current debate is this: that there is an open war between the Trinamool and the Congress, and Mr. Kishore is at the center of it. Shivam is somebody who has profiled, chronicled Prashant Kishore's political journey over the years. Do you believe that one thing is clear, that Prashant Kishore is not going to join the Congress party? One. And do you believe that second thing that is clear is that he is going to work with Mamata Banerjee? He has made it very clear in public statements that he no longer wishes to be a political advisor. So one can only assume, Shivam, that he is going to join the Trinamool Congress. You're on mute, Shivam. Yeah. Okay, we can't hear you. Can you take off your AirPods? Okay, let's just fix Shivam's. I don't know how that happened. Let me take the same thing to Sujata. Sujata, as a Congress person, are you worried about this open battle between the Congress and the Trinamool?
Not at all. It is been the BJP's agenda to propagate everybody other than the Congress party as the main opposition. If I look at the data of the time when the Congress has performed its worst, and that is 2019, then it shows me that we got 12 crore votes and the TMC got 2.5 crore, whereas YSR Congress got 1.55 crore votes. But when I come to the seat share, we got 9.57% of the votes, whereas the BJP got more than 55%. However, if you look at TMC, YSR, DMK, each one of them got 4.05%, around 4.05% votes, with DMK getting 4.41%. What does that show us? That there is a party which has lost two elections in the last two general elections, but that does not mean that we are nowhere at all. We are the party which is present pan India. So we are accepted and we need to work hard. We do not deny that. However, the BJP definitely wants to project either Aam Aadmi Party as the main opposition in the states, or when it comes to the entire country, they want to, project everybody else and then come up with a narrative. Let me just complete this. Come up with a narrative that the opposition is, not together at all. And they want to project Trinamool Congress's Mamata Banerjee as the prime ministerial candidate. But Mr. Mishra has just said that we don't want to do that. Now, look at the confusion here. It is the BJP which is doing that. Mr. Adhir Ranjan Chowdhary, when he talks about it and calls Mr. Prashant Kishor a Trojan horse, there is a reason. Prashant Kishor was in Dehradun, where I come from, a month or two back. And at that point of time, he told people at a lunch that the Congress party was going to get decimated in Punjab, etc. So how do you trust him? After that, he was meeting our leadership. So that's where I think
So
Mr.
why
Adhir
do you
Ranjan Chowdhary is coming.
so if I think, as Professor Om Prakash Mishra said, if he's so untrustworthy, why did your party leadership spend so many hours with him? Why did he
That's exactly.
almost join the Congress?
No, that's exactly what I'm saying. So what was obviously what was happening at a lunch in Dehradun is not something that the leadership knew. So if he was projecting himself as somebody, who thought of the Congress as a party that he could join, you can't really blame the leadership. And our party is a democratic party. We meet everybody. Now, if somebody is going to try and backstab us, we are not going to obviously distrust him at the beginning. But as
Okay.
time goes by, you do realize.
Okay, let me try and get Shivam in again, and then I'll go to Sanjay Ji of the CSDS. Shivam, my question to you was quite simply, as someone who's profiled Mr. Kishore over the years, would you agree with these two conclusions that it's quite evident, A, he's not joining the Congress, and B, he is going to join the Trinamool Congress? Shivam.
No, I have no idea what Prashant Kishor is going to do because, for one, uh, if he had made up his mind, he would have done it, right? So maybe he's still evaluating things and looking at things. I think there've been a number of news stories by people, including Rashid Kidwai, I think, which have said that he's waiting for the February election results to come out to basically do anything, join any party. But we do see the TMC fighting Goa election seriously, having post an ex-Congress chief minister there, and the IPAC, the Indian Political Action Committee, which is associated with Prashant Kishore, is officially working. That's a matter of record. It's in the news, right? And the Goa move is actually a big thing apart from Sushmita Dev joining TMC in Tripura, which has raised the hackles of the Congress party. Now, when Sanjay Jha's pet Pablo was barking, the metaphor I wanted to use was, does the Congress bark have any bite? Because the story here is not Prashant Kishore, not TMC, but the Congress. Let me give you the example of Goa. In Goa last election, the Congress party emerged as the single largest party, right? Could not form government, could not stake claim, did not even stake claim, and gave the BJP all the time in the world to poach their people and form government. Now, the Aam Aadmi Party and TMC, two different parties from different parts of India, have entered Goa and are making the case to the people of Goa, look, don't waste your vote on Congress. You are unhappy with 10 years of BJP, there's anti-incumbency. If you vote for Congress, they will do what they did last time. So try us, not one but two, right? There is this Prashant Kishore obsession going on in the media, but what about the Aam Aadmi Party, right? So not one but two forces are, one from Delhi, one from Bengal, is gone into Goa and making the case to replace the Congress party. Look at what has happened in Bengal over the years. Since we're talking TMC, the history of this is very interesting because in some ways the history is repeating itself. There was a Congress versus TMC in Bengal forever, right? Mamata Banerjee left the Congress party, formed her own party. Why? Because she felt the Congress party in Bengal was not only sidelining her, but also was not doing an effective job of agitational politics to take on the dominant CPM there, right? So in some ways, history is repeating itself in this Congress versus TMC.
So are you saying Prashant Kishore being a Trojan horse of the BJP is in irrelevance in the larger political picture?
No. I mean that's a most preposterous comment after the Bengal results. Prashant Kishore and TMC have defeated the BJP in Bengal so roundly. An election that was a very high stakes, prestigious election for the BJP. Many people, even in Delhi, thought TMC losing that election, losing badly. Instead, the TMC vote share went from 45 to 49%. So after Bengal results, for anyone to say that Prashant Kishore is a Trojan horse of BJP, I'm saying something else. I'm saying, is the Congress party a Trojan horse of BJP? Look at what
Okay,
happened. Look at what
not
happened.
by design, not by design.
Well, but in effect, I mean, and there's a larger problem here that the Congress party thinks we are a two-party democracy, BJP and Congress, and everybody else has to ally themselves with either of these two poles. No, we are a multi-party democracy. There are no dearth of regional parties that do not, as of today and
Okay,
often, ally themselves very closely with either BJP or Congress. The best example being Naveen Patnaik, right? So what to suggest that for a TMC or an AAP or an OSC, to they don't have the right to contest elections in a multi-party democracy. They have to ally themselves either with Congress or with BJP. I think that's very unfair. We are a multi-party democracy.
okay,
Everybody is,
okay. Hang on.
ultimately the people have to decide. These questions are decided by the people.
Okay, hang on. Let me quickly take this to Sanjay Kumar of the CSDS, who's been waiting very patiently. Of course, Shivam is correct that in a democracy, anyone has the right to contest an election, but there's an arithmetic logic also to the electoral process, which may not be the problem of an OVC or a Mamta Banerjee or an Aam Aadmi party, but it's real. You're in the business of data. What do you see of the expansionist ambitions of both Mamata and Arvind Kejriwal, both of whom are trying to prove that they are more than one state leaders? And will it be that whoever bags the second state first will be the person who will then be in jousting position or possibly pivot position when it comes to the opposition? Sanjay Kumar.
Uh, See, I think both the parties which you mentioned, Aam Aadmi Party and Trinamool Congress, they are sensing that Congress is creating, the vacuum is getting created for the national alternative to the Congress. So that's becoming very, very clear. The Congress spokesman did mention that Congress is a pan-India party, but it is a pan-India party, yes, in the sense that, the race is taking place in all the states. You are running the race in all the states, but you are coming seventh, eighth, 10th, second in all the states. You are winning the race only in a couple of states. So yes, you are present in all the states. You are running all the electoral battle. But is this only qualifies Congress to be a national party? So both these two parties are sensing that BJP Congress is creating that space for another party to fill this gap. Both the parties are working very hard. We know the states where Aam Aadmi Party is trying to expand, whether it is, we were discussing about Goa, Uttarakhand, whether it is Punjab or Gujarat. Even Trinamool Congress is also trying to expand in some of these states. They are focusing on Tripura and Goa more than, say, Gujarat or some other state. You are right, Barkha, that the the 2022 elections, the next round of assembly elections are going to be crucial for setting the stage for thinking of a party which is going to emerge as a national alternative to Congress. I'm not saying that a national alternative to Congress would immediately emerge, but as going by the performance of TMC and Aam Aadmi Party, that's going to give an indication that which party is going to expand quickly. I'm not saying they are going to replace Congress in all these states, but that's going to set the trend.
Can
And
I
my
can I ask
own
you
sense,
something? Yeah,
and my
sorry, your
own
own
sense
sense.
is my
Yeah.
own sense is that Aam Aadmi Party is going to be more acceptable compared to the Trinamool Congress because of the language, because the sense I get, yes, Mamta Banerjee is very, very popular in West Bengal, but I don't think she has that kind of an acceptability in other states. I'm not saying Arvind Kejriwal is extremely acceptable, but if you compare the acceptability of these two leaders in other states, Arvind Kejriwal is more acceptable compared to Mamta Banerjee.
Okay, I think also Sanjay ji, the difference between both parties is that Arvind Kejriwal is presenting himself, at least in Punjab, as a possible face of the campaign, whereas I think Mamta Banerjee is trying to create other leaders in other states. That's one distinction that I see in their approach. But very quickly, if I can ask you to look at this sort of kerfuffle around Mr. Kishore and which party he will join. Does it matter? Does it matter to the larger political picture and the political debate that's going on in this country?
I don't think that it is going to matter whether Prashant Kishore joins party A, B, C, or D. That's not going to change the electoral fortunes of the party in a big way. A party has to revive from the grassroots, whether revive or strengthen. When I mention Congress, the Congress has to revive. If he joins Trinamool Congress or Aam Aadmi Party or any other party, then the party has to expand its support base.
Okay, very quickly before I go back to the politicians, Shivam, you said on Twitter when there was sort of high voltage photo op moments, Priyanka Gandhi Vadra borrowing from the Modi playbook, especially with that sort of sweeping the guest house in which she was detained image. You said even the fiercest critic of the Congress has to give some credit for what Priyanka has done, if only she did it every day. Do you believe that these kind of high voltage optics, almost replacing Akhilesh Yadav as the face of the resistance to Yogi Adityanath, at least in Lakhimpur, matters? Because in fact, there are people who would suggest that the image is just a transitory headline and has no political consequence at all. Shiva.
You could drive into just Noida and ask people on the road, and you will see how Priyanka Gandhi's occasional optics don't really make much of a difference, because it takes a lot more to be a serious political player in an election. You need a cadre, you need party, you need candidates, you need leaders, you know, you need agitations, you need a lot more. So, in fact, about a month or so ago, when I traveled in UP, I found that voters clearly saw the election as being between BJP and Samajwadi Party. They were not even talking about the BSP, leave alone the Congress. I would be surprised if the Congress Party gets even 5 seats, which it did last time. Maybe I think they might be in 1 or 2 seats this time, out of 403. I think, you know, to come back to the earlier conversation about Prashant Kishor and TMC and AAP and Congress and so on, the real issue here, as Sanjay Ji was outlining, is of the national opposition space, right? Um, uh, do you occupy the national opposition space by occasional optics? Those are very important, but they cannot make up for all of politics, right? The Congress Party, often the excuse is they can't defeat BJP because of Hindutva and state power and media and so on, could not even defeat a CPM in Kerala, right? So the crisis here is, you know, talking of Prashant Kishor, I've actually written that what he's trying to do is figure out national politics. He's been going state by state, one state, second state, third state, but it doesn't add up to anything, right? So he wants to figure out the national conversation for the opposition. And in that sense, you know, whether it's TMC or AAP or Congress or a combination of these or maybe a new party, you know, what we should worry about is that question. What
Yeah.
is,
But
how
he
do we,
doesn't seem very convinced about the Congress's fortunes in post Lakhimpur, and his tweet made that clear. That's not speculative. He said it. He said
no,
it.
I think, no, what did his tweet say? What did his tweet
Let's
say?
let's bring it up. That those who
His
think that the
tweet
Congress
said,
anything will change for the Congress based on
his tweet,
Lakhimpur, think again.
uh, his tweet, I think, the keyword would be structural weakness, deep-rooted problems, right? It means
Yeah.
I don't see. You know, you could read this tweet as not being anti-Congress, but pro-Congress. He's trying to help Congress and say that, look, you need a structural change. You have deep-rooted problems that a flash-in-the-pan moment at Lakhimpur Kheri doesn't solve.
Okay, let's bring in Sanjay Jha and then go back to the Congress and the Trinamool representatives on the program. Sanjay Jha, you know, what's the fate of the G23? Do you think you know, many of its key people are going to be expelled at the next big critical meeting of the Congress Working Committee?
Barkha, I'll tell you something that, you know, my friend Sujata is not going to like it, but when she says that the Congress is pan-India, what she doesn't tell you that it's also getting panned all over India. I'm sorry, but this is a fact of life. We cannot ignore that. And this is not a Pablo wisecrack. I also believe that being called a Trojan horse can be quite flattering, because the horse is not the only animal that sometimes political parties get compared with. You know, especially when you are so underwhelming for so long a period. But your question is, you know, frankly, you know, I need to bite the bullet on that one, Barkha. I really don't see the Congress splitting at all. I need to be very vocal here. I know some of you know, some political commentators and pundits have said that the Congress should split. I believe a split in the Congress would only make it very easy for the BJP, and not even for the BJP. It will make it easy for AAP and the Trinamool Congress. And I don't think any one of us in G23 are ideologically keen to kind of, you know, create that kind of an alternative.
I mean,
So I
how do
need
you
to.
see Mamta Banerjee's role? How do you see Mamta Banerjee's role? She's been a member of the Congress party. Do you think the Trinamool is trying to position itself as the Naya Congress?
Well, I'll tell you
The
what.
Naya Purana Congress, in a way?
Yeah, no, you know, there was a very interesting discussion you had with, I think, my namesake and Shivam and everybody else on whether it's Mamata or Arvind Kejriwal. I
Yeah.
have said it to the Congress friends I have, including a couple of people at the senior level who listen to me more often than the others. But I've warned them long time ago that Aam Aadmi Party is going to chip away at you in smaller states. For some reason, the Congress is always obsessed about fighting the BJP and ignore the smaller states where it can defeat the BJP more easily. And that's where AAP sees an opportunity, because you don't invest so much of resources or capital. You just need a charismatic leader to come and, you know, take advantage of two national parties that are both basically incompetent or are not delivering. I feel that Mamata has a big edge over Arvind Kejriwal for a simple reason. You know, it's not about who's more credible, and I agree Arvind is more articulate and speaks Hindi and all pretty well. The number is of electoral math. And Mamata in West Bengal alone will contest over 40 Lok Sabha seats. Even if Arvind sweeps Delhi, he gets 7 seats. And you're not likely to see him get too many seats from Gujarat, even though there's been a bit of a spurt there. So I do feel it's advantage Mamata by far. So what Mamata is doing, Barkha, is very straightforward. Everyone, and let me tell you this, I've been in politics long enough to tell you this, everyone in politics aspires to be a prime minister. Whether it's going to happen or not, everyone has this secret fantasy somewhere in their head. Yadi मैं प्रधानमंत्री होता, so how would I shake hands with Kamala Harris and not make her abuse me on how Indian democracy is?
Once again, I think Shivam is wanting to say something. Yeah, Shivam?
Sanjay, do you also have that fantasy?
Well, let me tell you, I have always been a dreamer, yeah. And by the way, I have always told myself that if Mr. Gowda and Mr. Gujral, who from nowhere became prime minister, I honestly believe, why are you guys ruling out a dark horse in 2024? You never know what can happen, yeah. And I want to make a point here on where PGV is concerned. Now, Barkha, you know that I have been batting sometimes a
Yeah,
little.
I don't understand that. I don't
No,
understand
no,
how you are so critical of Rahul Gandhi but not of Priyanka Gandhi when the malaise is the same, which is the absence of consistency, the absence of structural changes.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with that. In fact, I agree with Prashant Kishor because I've written reams on the structural fault lines in the Congress. But I need to tell you this, and this is from my personal experience, and I'm not trying to do a TV commercial for Priyanka here. I do believe politics changes if a personality can bring in a certain aura or chemistry into the game. I felt all along, and that Priyanka has perhaps been for too long under the shadow of Rahul. And I think she needs to express herself. And I do know that Priyanka's got the capability. Now, let me tell you, ask a regular person to try and sweep a thing knowing it's a photo op, and they make an extremely disastrous, kind of rehearsal, forget a performance. Priyanka is doing it. And I think when you begin to go out of your comfort zone, you make a statement. So I will tell you that don't rule out a slight surge for the Congress. I don't know where it will go, but if the BSP is collapsing, and if Priyanka positions herself as the alternative to Yogi Adityanath, I still believe the
Okay.
Congress is
Okay.
in the game.
Okay,
It's
okay,
not
hang
out
on.
of the game.
I have to take this conversation back to Prashant Kishor because one of the things he has said on record, can we come out of these? I think these sweeping photographs have made their point now. One of the things that Mr. Kishor has said on record in numerous interviews, including one to Mojo's story, Sanjay, is that when he was running that UP campaign for the Congress, which went south, one of the promises that the Congress had made is that Ms. Gandhi Vadra would run as chief ministerial candidate. That did not happen. Now we see no evidence except for episodic high-profile interventions every time there's a sort of headline-grabbing tragedy that happens in UP that Priyanka has the stomach or the discipline to actually move bag and baggage to UP and practice daily politics. And that is really what the test is going to be about. Let me get the others in and we can discuss what Sanjay has raised later. Om Prakash ji, to the point of differing perspectives on Mamta versus Kejriwal, one person arguing that Ms. Banerjee controls more Lok Sabha seats, the other saying Mr. Kejriwal has other advantages. I know you'll be politically correct and say none of this matters, but the fact is it does matter. If you want to take on Mr. Modi, all of this matters. How can you say it doesn't matter?
No, I'm not saying it doesn't matter. Of course, it matters. You see, Shivam ji mentioned about Goa, that the Congress has the highest number of seats, though not absolute majority, but it failed to form the government. Same thing happened in Manipur, 28 seats, and the BJP forms the government. And you have actually government running in Madhya Pradesh and Karnataka, and you lose those governments. So therefore, these are some of the very big issues. You see, at a personal level, maybe that because some of you might not know this, I am a Congress worker for last 40 years. Not a single day I have been disassociated. But you know why I had to give up on my Congress? I was Prime Minister's National Security Advisory Board member, and even at that point of time, I resigned that to contest against Buddhadev Bhattacharya. But in 2019, I had to give up on the Congress because the Congress here and the CPIM here in Bengal, they refused to fight the BJP. They completely surrendered. They transferred votes. Adhir Ranjan Chowdhary, this time, he's got Congress party has got 2% vote here, and they did it deliberately in a way that to strengthen BJP. So it is the Congress, local leadership of Congress and the CPIM they brought in. So this is not acceptable. If we have to fight the BJP, we need strong leaders. That is why Mamata Banerjee had said in her meeting with Sonia Gandhi ji that if, we should have Aam Aadmi Party, we should have Samajwadi Party, we should have CPI ML. All of us should come together. The question of leadership actually would arise. I think that it is important question. I can, we can discuss interdependence theory. We can discuss positive sum game,
But
negative
do you
sum
not
game.
think that Mamta has gained in national profile very consciously? And disclosure here: when Time Magazine profiled her as one of the 100 sort of most influential people in the world,
Yeah,
and I
see,
think we
that is
had a
all positive. Barkha
no, I'm
ji,
saying
that
I
that
was just going to say I was just going to say that I in fact wrote that little profile in the magazine on why that win in Bengal was so critical, and it had catapulted her into a place of influence that she may never have had otherwise. So, do you deny, Mr. Om Prakash ji, that there is a kind of new aggression, a new hunger, a new ambition in the TMC?
Definitely there is, and all the more reason that it should actually, grow, because there's a lot of gap in the entire country. Now, Trinamool is being asked that why you are going to Goa. Should we be asking Congress that why you are going to Uttar Pradesh? Right? So they are saying that why you are poaching. Should I ask that why you poach BSP MLAs from Rajasthan or Aam Aadmi Party MLA in Punjab, or why you have poached Kanhaiya Kumar from CPI? So there is an element of cooperation and competition. And then, of
Yeah.
course, I agree with Sanjay Kumar ji that language matters, etc. But then I'm sorry to say that in Uttar Pradesh, and I'm a ardent media watcher, I find that the references to Bengal actually has unified the country. It may not have propelled TMC as the national force, not at all. I'm not saying or suggesting, but everywhere the reference point is that ye sambhav ho gaya or ho saka. So therefore, we
Yeah.
are an interdependent relationship. We do not want Congress to get weakened. We are
Very
asking
interesting.
why Congress is getting weakened. Why should
Yeah.
not it get its acts together? Let us work together. We
Very
asked for a
interesting. And
coordination committee. How come that is the coordination committee is still not in place?
yeah, Sanjay Kumar, if you can respond before I go to Sujata ji of the Congress party, it's a very interesting point that Bengal has become this reference point for what is possible, even in the face of very very strident, well-funded, led from the top BJP campaigns.
No, I fully agree with what Mishra ji has said. That even though I don't see Mamata Banerjee's personal popularity increasing in different states. But yes, the reference to West Bengal is there in all the states. That if this is possible in West Bengal, why can't this be possible in another state? But the only point is that the leader has to come up, fight the might of the BJP, the party which is so powerful in many states. So the message is very clear that if you are determined, if you are committed to, to do politics the way it should be done in order to contest a very powerful party, you can be successful. So that narrative is traveling from one state to another, but that narrative has to be operationalized or implemented at the ground by different political parties. Will political parties be able to do that? That we have to see.
Do you see any early signs emerging, Sanjay ji, in your data, in your preliminary research from any of the five states going to the polls? Do you see anything shifting?
Anything shifting. This is in reference to what I have said earlier. I see a possibility. People in Uttarakhand looking for a third party, and it is going to be Aam Aadmi Party. If you look at how voters of Uttarakhand have voted during last 4 or 5 assembly elections, a huge majority of voters have voted for the other parties. So Congress and BJP have only cornered roughly 50 to 60% of the vote. So I see Aam Aadmi Party emerging as a strong third force. I'm not saying as an alternative, as a strong third force uh, in Uttarakhand. Definitely, they are going to do very well in Punjab. In Goa, we have still to. I think I need to wait and see whether it is Aam Aadmi Party or Trinamool Congress. But yes, Congress is certainly going to go down in Goa also. These are the changes. In UP, I see, I go along with what Shivam has mentioned. UP is going to be a fight between Samajwadi Party and BJP. And I see BJP is ahead compared to Samajwadi Party. I would say, far ahead compared to Samajwadi Party. At the moment, I don't see even a contest taking place in UP.
What about Punjab, sir?
Punjab, I would say Aam Aadmi Party, and the contest is between Aam Aadmi Party and Congress. If at all Congress is able to keep its house in order, if Congress leaders keep fighting among themselves, then things could be very, very different. But I think Congress still is in a serious race in Punjab.
Now, Sujata, to you, and then we'll have to start closing. Sujata, I know you're from Uttarakhand. Do you not find it ironic that your most popular leader, Mr. Harish Rawat, instead of being in the state, has been deployed to fight a crisis in Punjab, which is showing no signs of resolution?
Barkha, I must tell you that since I come from Uttarakhand, I understand the ground situation much, much better over here. As far as Mr. Harish Rawat is concerned, it hasn't been very tough for him to divide time between Punjab and Uttarakhand. But let me tell you that in Uttarakhand, Aam Aadmi Party is seen as the B team of the BJP, and I'll tell you why. There is a welfare board called the Karmkar board, and they were supposed to be distributing some bicycles to laborers. And those bicycles were distributed by the Aam Aadmi Party workers. And that's where, people realized that there was something going on between the BJP and the Aam Aadmi Party. On the ground, Aam Aadmi Party is nowhere to be seen. But like I said earlier, they are being projected as the opposition to the BJP. And when we talk about the Aam Aadmi Party, very recently there was one leader of the BJP who had joined them, and now he's been taken back into the party. So there's a lot happening with the Aam Aadmi Party. The last point about Aam Aadmi Party. Aam Aadmi Party contested the 2014 general elections, and at that point of time, Modi ji was quite weak. In 2017, they were nowhere to be seen when we had the assembly elections and Congress lost. In 2019, Modi ji was again very strong. At that time also, they did not contest elections. Aam Aadmi Party has reappeared again in the last 1.5 years. Why is that so? That is because the BJP wants them to be projected as the opposition to the BJP in their quest for Congress Mukta Bharat. But people are looking at the Congress, and I'm not saying it only as a Congress person. Even as a social activist, I know when I work with people, I see how they react. Yesterday, I was with Anganwadi workers. They were reacting against the BJP government. So there are lots of things happening over here. Now, there's one little point I do want to make. Can I make that point?
Sure.
Yes, we are a multi-party democracy, and the Congress party has never undermined anybody. We never, we never want anybody to feel that we are trying to demean them like the BJP does.
Your leader in the Congress, in the Lok Sabha, just called Mamata Banerjee the Trojan horse of the BJP, by the way. And he's not, you can locate him as a regional leader who's competed with Mamata in West Bengal, but he was the person the Gandhis appointed to lead the party in parliament. So this is the point. Like, this is one of the many bewildering decisions that the Congress leadership has taken that nobody understands, right? So let's Sujata. Okay, let's agree to disagree and move on. I literally have a minute left, Shivam, and then Sanjay Jha can close unless Sanjay Kumar has something to chip in. Shivam, go ahead.
Yes. Okay.
Shivam. Shivam's on mute. Shivam, you've got to unmute yourself at your end.
Currently there are only two political parties in India that have more than one chief minister each, BJP and Congress. Congress has 3 chief ministers, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, and Punjab, right? Now, after this round of elections, it is possible that Aam Aadmi Party may win Punjab, and therefore Aam Aadmi Party may become the first non-BJP, non-Congress party to have 2 chief ministers in the current scenario, right? It is, and with Trinamool trying to spread its wings in many states, Trinamool could win, maybe a Tripura or maybe some other state, right? I think it's important to ask why Trinamool is fighting Goa of all states. It doesn't even look like, as of now, they are going to win the state. But if Trinamool opens its account in Goa, it can say, look, you say we are a regional party, we are a Bengal party, but even in Goa we have some traction on the other side of the country. So what I'm saying is that in 2-3 years, the opposition space may be a contest between three forces: Aam Aadmi Party, TMC, and Congress. I'm not saying Congress is dying or dead. I'm saying that the Congress will become equal to Aam Aadmi Party and Trinamool, and there'll be a three-way contest in the opposition space, which in the short run, yes, will benefit the BJP.
Sanjay Jha, you said that the Congress will not split, should not split. If it does not split, what do you, very briefly, see happening to it, given the rebellion simmering within its ranks?
Before I answer that, Barkha, a very quick one. Mr. Falero joining the TMC in Goa, please understand that the larger game plan is to actually use him in the Northeast. For several years, he was the Congress General Secretary handling the Northeast, and that's where the TMC hopes to use his contacts, his allegiances, his relationships with different legislators through different parties. So it may not be Goa, it's a Northeast gamble. But as far as the Congress party is concerned, I will have to end with the way you began, quoting Prashant Kishor. Much as people in the Congress may be, pretty pissed with him for calling a spade, Barkha, the bottom line is the Congress has to get its house in order. Why are we having this conversation today, right? For only one reason, that the Congress looks susceptible, the Congress is vulnerable, which is why the BJP, AAP, TMC are having a party. And therefore, the Congress, if it can fix itself, it's not difficult, it's not impossible at all. It just requires a leader with a willpower. And therefore, people like us are going to go on shouting from the rooftops, do something about it. Democracy khatre mein hai. Usso kijiye.
Okay, leaving it there, we'll see what happens at that critical Congress Working Committee meeting that may, in fact, see the G23 that Sanjay Jha backs, facing disciplinary action. Sanjay Kumar, Sanjay Jha, Shivam Vij, Professor Prakash, and Sujata. Thank you to our audience. See you tomorrow, same time. Goodbye.
Thank you, Barkha.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.